Hello and welcome to this presentation titled Improving Statistical Coherence, Examples from the United Kingdom. My name is Dr. George Rose, and alongside my colleagues, Kanak Ghosh and Adam Evans, we represent the UK-wide data coherence team from the Office for National Statistics. So in this video presentation, I'd like to cover three areas. First of all, we're going to look at understanding statistical coherence and why it is important. Secondly, we're going to look at the United Kingdom statistical system, devolution, and an international perspective. And then finally, and most importantly, we're going to cover examples of statistical coherence work and successes at the Office for National Statistics. So first of all, let's think about understanding statistical coherence and why it is important to us. So I appreciate you may have already had some information in this conference and training around statistical coherence. This is what we consider to be the United Kingdom perspective on it. So statistical coherence is about bringing together outputs on the same topic to better explain the part of the world they describe. This can maximize the value of statistics by drawing clear, together insights on the same theme to present this clear picture. So multiple sources of information can provide us with more detailed and clear picture about where we currently live. So the ONS works with colleagues across the government statistical system and devolved governments, I'll explain what that means in a few moments, to promote and improve coherence and comparability of statistics across the UK. Now, coherence is very important, and here are some reasons why that is the case. So it can help reduce the misinterpretation or misuse of data. It can support tackling common challenges. Coherent and comparable data promotes effective policy design and delivery. We provide a lot of the tools and measurement capability so that policy can be designed and evaluated. And in particular, our 5-year strategy, which is called Statistics for the Public Good, this incorporates many aspects of coherence. And a quote from Sir David Norgrove, which nicely summarizes this, states, "You can't have joined-up government without joined-up statistics. Now we can deliver them." So to further emphasize why coherence is important, we've also reached out to some of our stakeholders, and these are the people who use our statistics and have really expressed their user need for coherent data. So let me just read a few of these quotes to provide some background. So firstly, from the Green Alliance, we want to be able to speak to the situations in all 4 countries, and it can be a bit of a struggle sometimes. It sometimes seems easier to just do an England story because we know we'll have consistent data sets. It's actually much more impactful if we can do the whole of the UK. I'll explain the situation of the UK and the different countries in a few moments to add some context to that. We also have a quote from Crisis. And they've stated, "We are a GB, a Great Britain organisation. One of the things I'm always very aware of is we're often asked about the state of homelessness in the United Kingdom and at Great Britain level, when actually homelessness is a devolved policy issue. It's about trying to look at to what extent we can draw those data sets together. And I will explain what a devolved policy issue means in a few slides' time. And then finally, from the Social Mobility Commission, our job is to monitor and to make recommendations. And without the first piece of that, we can't really effectively do the second piece. Monitoring across the United Kingdom just becomes a lot harder when we don't have that consistent data or we've got things missing. So to add some further meaning to some of those quotes, I did talk a little bit about the makeup of the United Kingdom and some devolved governments. So I'm going to explain that in a little more detail now, and also talk about an international perspective. So what Eurostat and also the wider United Nations say on this as well. So first of all, I appreciate the United Kingdom is a long way from Mongolia. So I've provided a map here, and you can see exactly where we are to the west of Europe there. And the United Kingdom's made up of 4 countries: England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. And there's lots of producers of official statistics within those countries. So governing all of this, we have something called the UK Statistics Authority. And this is independent at arm's length from the government to allow for independent reporting of statistics. So it has a statutory objective of promoting and safeguarding the production and publication of official statistics. And the primary purpose of this is to serve the public good. Now, we have lots of statistics producers within the UK, and we have an organisation called the Government Statistical Service, and this covers all of the UK statistics producers. We also have the Office for National Statistics, which is where I am based from and the team that I introduced this presentation with. And the ONS is the executive office of the UK Statistics Authority, and we are the largest producer of official statistics in the UK. We also have a regulator, and this is called the Office for Statistics Regulation. And this is very important because it assesses official statistics for compliance with a code of practice for statistics. So it really ensures that the standards we set out are being met. And to provide guidance around what those standards are, we have a code of practice. And in particular, coherence is a overarching, a very core important feature of this code of practice. So statistics producers should collaborate with experts and producers of related statistics and data to provide a comprehensive and coherent narrative for the statistical topic. And that in particular comes from one of our value pillars, which really emphasizes the need for clarity and insight. Now, this slide, I appreciate, is complicated. There are lots of different organizations and bodies here. And I've purposely made it this way because what this represents is the complete amount of official statistics producers across the United Kingdom. So what we actually have here is a combination of government departments and also devolved governments. So this would be the governments from Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. And what you probably gather from this is that it's a complex system in the United Kingdom. There are lots of people producing official statistics, and that presents great opportunity to improve coherence because we can have multiple sources of information that we can draw together to provide a more informed picture of what is happening in this part of the world. However, multiple sources also come with more challenges. So sometimes there are needs to provide perhaps standardization and harmonization to be able to compare some of these statistics. And in other cases, that might not necessarily be appropriate. Now, furthermore, we have a small complication in the United Kingdom in that towards the latter parts of the 1990s, so around about 1997 and 1998, those years, devolved powers were handed to the Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland governments. So what we find in the United Kingdom is that some policy areas have what we call devolved policies. So examples of this would be education, housing, and health. So this really means that Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland have developed their own policy areas, and these can move apart over time. And this sometimes presents challenges to ensure that we can compare similar sorts of data, because naturally that process would pull the data sets apart. There are some policy areas which are what we call reserved. So these are common across all of the UK countries, defence being a key example of that. Because of the complexity and the difference between our countries, England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland, an agreement has been reached called a concordat, and that's the name given to this agreement, and it relates to matters of mutual interest. And this took place in 2021, signed by the Permanent Secretary and representatives of the respective governments. So this really enforces that we have a collective interest in producing high quality statistics of very high professional standards. And then the final part of this section is just to draw parallels with international organizations. So Eurostat, for example, they have their European Statistics Code of Practice, and they have 16 principles within that. Principle 14 is specifically focused around coherence and comparability. Likewise, the United Nations have a National Quality Assurance Frameworks Manual for official statistics, and within that they have Principle 18, assuring coherence and comparability. So there are equivalent standards from an international perspective in comparison with what we do here in the United Kingdom. Okay, so moving on to the third section, and this hopefully is where you'll find most useful information, where I'm going to provide some examples of what we do here in the United Kingdom. And this is how we've pulled together some statistical coherence work, and we can showcase some successes at the ONS. Now, these examples are publicly available. So I have provided links at the end of the presentation where you can actually go onto our website and look at some of these examples in a lot more detail in your own time. So first of all, what do we want to achieve in terms of improving coherence at the ONS? Well, the UK statistical system is complex. And because of that, we need to spend a lot of time improving collaboration to make sure all the different parts of that system are talking to each other. And in doing so, we tend to have a much greater strategic oversight. We're able to prioritize which are the very important areas that the government need to know about, and which areas perhaps need more attention in relation to making sure we do have a high level of coherence. So this hopefully should provide us with improved understanding for both our users of official statistics and also enable our producers of official statistics to provide information in a correct manner that can be used effectively. So this process improves communication and also the sharing of our information to our users. And really, we're all about providing statistics for the public good. And also this allows us to improve our comparability if our users want to compare different data sets or across different countries. Now, perhaps the more challenging part is how do we actually achieve this? Because we do have multiple data producers here. So what we try and do is facilitate or help this cross-system understanding. So first of all, and this is why I presented that second section describing the UK statistical system so that people have an understanding of where this data is coming from. We spend a lot of time prioritizing which topic areas or policies are important for ensuring that we do have coherent data. So this is something we review on a continual basis, and we publish yearly plans with our priorities. In doing this, we spend a lot of time talking to our stakeholders, all the different internal and external departments, to benefit from their expertise, but also share practice across our organisations. So we might provide examples where we're championing coherence activity across the GSS. So that's all of our statistical producers in the UK. We spend time talking to our users to work out what it is they need to improve coherence. And we also assess different data sources. So we might produce desk research looking at what publicly available information is out there and perhaps what areas we need to develop our future work in. And also we promote our work externally, such as events like this today. So how does that look in terms of what are the products and services that we produce? Well, we have a wide variety of different products. So these are hosted generally on our website. And again, there are links which I'll provide at the end of this presentation. So typically they might include work plans, blogs, explainer articles, signposting tools, data sets that include data from our 4 countries, articles that look at providing consistent outputs between data producers, and perhaps looking at the comparability, so through shared comparability statements as well. We also look at internal outputs, so things like newsletters, briefings internally. We have working groups, steering groups, workshops, and some training events to understand the system that we work in. So here's an example of what our UK-wide team does. This is the GSS Coherence Work Plan. So on the left-hand side, these are the key topic areas which we've deemed current priorities. And we have an interactive website where people can expand each one of those priorities. So health is an example here, and there'll be a description of what work is done in health, who leads on it, what our previous achievements are, and also what we're planning in the future. And there are links to the actual articles there. So that's seen as a high-level overview of the sort of coherence work that we do. We also spend a lot of time providing UK-wide data sets. So this is data that would be covering all of our 4 countries, England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. So there's an example there of house building and another example of adult smoking habits in the UK. And our outputs also, as well as providing the information that can be compared across countries, we're also keen to include statements which describe actually some areas that it's not recommended to compare between countries. So, for example, in the smoking article there's a statement saying that whilst the UK data in that article is useful for comparability, there are other organisations within the UK which produce data, and that is not recommended to compare because some of the geographical boundaries they use are actually different. So it's not a fair comparison. So we explain those differences in these articles. Furthermore, we have other explainer articles. This is a good example of one looking at ambulance response times in the UK. So it looks across the UK countries. And geographically, the UK has some areas which are urban and have very dense population. And we also have some areas, especially in Scotland and also Wales and Northern Ireland, where there aren't so many people living there. And there's a lot more rural environments which are harder to access in terms of ambulances. So one of the key conclusions of this article is actually, I'll read it out. The Office for National Statistics and the producers of ambulance response time data advise that direct comparisons between the nations of the UK should not be made because of wider operational differences. And there are links within these articles to drill down into a lot of the other data as well. We also provide something called interactive tools. Now, it's worth understanding that coherence can also involve improving the accessibility of information, especially if you have a complex system when lots of information is available. So we've been able to provide interactive tools. This is one for the GSS, so it covers a very wide amount of statistical producers, but topic areas that are covered in this tool are things like adult social care, crime and justice, health and care, homelessness, etc. And what this allows users to do is to very quickly find information so it's more accessible in the area that they're interested in. Now, the previous examples are quite technical and can be quite complex in nature. So we also provide example blogs, and the purpose of these are to maybe be a little less technical, easier to communicate our key messages to a wider audience. And these can focus on specific topical or important areas. So the one on the left there, that comes from our regulator, the OSR, and that really focuses around the importance of joining up insight across UK statistics. So that's a very broad approach. And we've got some more specific examples here. So we've produced a blog around understanding the new income statistics for local areas, different measures for better insights. So that's really looking at income and earnings. And we also have an example looking at health, building a better understanding of UK health data. So these are wider reaching, less technical, and a different way of communicating the work that we do in Coherence. Now, in our team, the UK-wide team, we've got a lot of examples of successes. So on the left-hand side, there are some Coherence articles. A lot of those are health-based, and they explain the coherence across the 4 UK nations. We also have articles which look at comparability to show how comparable data is or isn't. We also have articles which explore new methods and analysis. So this is where enhancements and changes in our way of collecting data has been described and published. And also we have new UK-wide data. So these could be new data streams that we're able to compare across countries. Now that's from our immediate team. We do also have 3 other teams that work in Coherence. So another one of these teams is what we call Future of Population and Migration Statistics, UK Coherence. So historically, the UK holds a survey-based census every 10 years. So what this team is generally about is to help the devolved governments to develop an administrative-based approach to population migration and social statistics by being their ambassadors within this ONS FPMS programme. So we promote the UK perspective in this programme by involving statistical colleagues from the countries, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, in addition to England. And this ensures development of coherent and comparable UK population data and statistics. And through diplomacy and facilitation, we ensure the needs of the 4 nations are met as we transform the delivery of these statistics for the UK together. So currently the UK is investigating the future of an administrative database census alongside the existing survey-based approach, which operates every 10 years. We also have another team which looks at income and earnings in particular. And again, they use some of this administrative data and they have produced lots of outputs. They have an interactive tool, they have a coherence work plan, they've got coherence and comparability guides, and they've also produced blogs. So good examples across lots of means of communication that we have described. We also have another team which looks at housing, planning, homelessness and rough sleeping. And they've been operating since 2017 to produce some of this work. And here are some examples that present a good UK-wide picture. And this prevents or reduces the misuse of data. So particular examples will be affordable housing, fuel poverty, homelessness, private rental sector, rough sleeping, and homeless deaths. And they often have steering group meetings and they confirm priorities for the upcoming periods as well to make sure that the information is current and useful to our user needs. So in summary, there are 4 key areas I'd like to draw your attention to. So firstly, improving statistical coherence is very important, particularly when there are many producers of official statistics and multiple countries involved. In the UK, coherence is a key requirement of the Code of Practice, and compliance is assessed by our regulator. Eurostat and the United Nations have equivalent quality requirements. We use a variety of products and services to help improve coherence. And key examples of these products would be our work plans, countrywide data sets, explainer articles, interactive tools, and blogs. If you want further information on these areas, please refer to the final slide. This information is publicly available on our website, and I have provided links to that. So thank you very much for listening. Some key resources at a high level that might be worth looking at, certainly to provide more information about the United Kingdom approach. I've provided a link to the Code of Practice for Statistics there. There's also a link for the ONS website, so that's ourselves. And also, if you would like to get into contact with our team in particular, the email address is uk.wide.data.coherence@ons.gov.uk. And finally, here are a sample of links which cover not all, but most of the examples I've presented today. We have a wealth of information on our website, which is publicly available. So please feel free to follow up and visit some of these sources if you want further information. I would also like to say, in addition to this video recording, we are sharing the PowerPoint presentation, including these links, and also a transcript document, Word document, in case the English language needs to be translated. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope you found that useful. Take care.